What's good with y'all, man? Hopefully y'all having a good day, man. I just want to tell y'all, man, it's YMDR News, y'all. Gang. So, what's good with y'all, man? So, what I could tell y'all, man, just as far as it goes with YMDR News, man, since I'm starting it off, I'm going to just go into a little bit of my story of building YMDR and just a little bit of where it kind of started from, kind of just the parts of that line up with what it is and stuff like that. So where I can say it started for me, obviously was at a church, in the Metro Church. They were talking about some things they wanted to do to kind of help edify the Christian fields and stuff like that. A friend named Sarah, she was mentioning how she wanted to get involved with something called Unconditional. And at the time, I was more or less trying to create something that was more like not a non-for-profit, but it was something that was used for Christians to kind of come together and connect with each other under kind of like an artistry base, something that could be used that was outside of the church so that it could be used to utilize kind of like a space of what do Christians do outside of the church in their artistic abilities. And let's just say, at that time when I was mentioning that and kind of putting it together, didn't really seem like the church really had that idea. They were more into the ministry aspect. So it seemed like that was something that they was more into opposed to what I was more or less referring to. But I asked a couple of them about it, tried to get a couple of them to tap in with it, and what I kind of got in the midst of it was just people who kind of wanted to be in it, but then they kind of didn't. They didn't really take it as serious as I would say. I used to try to there was an artist that was a singer at our church that used to be there. And I more or less tried to put her in it. Felt like she wasn't really trying to be real about it. I remember putting somebody else in it, and just felt like they wasn't really trying to be real about it. So, some years kind of put in, kind of like near 2013, I had some other different things happening, but I remembered that I started off just trying to put it together as far as it goes with, just the church in general. But I soon had to deal with what we would say a accident where I got drugged by somebody and I wandered out in the snow and got frostbite, on my hands and stuff like that. So, and I could tell you right now, when this happened at the time, because I was around my church friends and my mother was involved in different things, she blamed my church for this type of stuff, like she thought my church was the reason why this happened, and it really wasn't my church at all. Like, it's really just a false concept that she was thinking that was because of my church, because I was hanging around them. They was the only ones I was hanging around, so she thought that meant that they did something to me, etc. And she thought they was holding me hostage too, one time, and they really wasn't even doing none of that either. She just was kind of like in a stage of kind of getting out of jail and had some things going on, so she thought some things that weren't really necessarily true. And when we really boiled down the whole thing, is when I was going through all that. That was what kind of stopped me in the midst of my journey of trying to put YMDR together, because it was just an idea of I was kind of just not in a good, healthy space for me to kind of grow and be an artist to create what I was trying to create. So it kind of stumbled me in that reality, because I just had to deal with a lot of verbal abuse from my mother and stuff. So it was a lot of conviction in that reality because of the fact that I was a Christian. She was a Hebrew Israelite. And if anybody knows anything about those two, they cannot connect with each other. And that's just what it really was. And when we boil it down to the two, especially because there were times where she thought I was forcing my beliefs on her. It really wasn't me forcing my beliefs on her at all, because I obviously say what I believed, but I didn't used to make it seem like she had to believe it. But she just had this kind of awkward concept to it that made it seem like I was trying to push it on her when it was really just my own beliefs, me believing as my own person. You feel me? So it came off to her like I was more or less trying to push something on her that I wasn't pushing on her. And long story short, man, I mean, when I really think about how I kind of recovered from all that, I was in a hospital. I went to a mental institution for a minute, and let's just say it was a little crazy there. Things were a little different there, and wasn't really the best place to be in after that accident happened. But it was the only place I was in. I remember drawing a design, kind of like on the kind of piece of paper that kind of stated unity. And I was more or less thinking that because when I was in that mental space, a mental institution, it kind of felt more like a space that was trying to clutter the idea of my true self, and it wasn't really getting me to understand who I was really trying to be. And so it was kind of like a stumbling block in that space for me. So I felt like I was needing unity, and what I was meaning, even though I was mentally out of it, I was meaning unity as in unity with each other, people who are not like these people who are not really unifying because of anything in particular. They're unifying for money and other different resources. I'm talking about an outside unity. That was what came to my mind when I was speaking on that. And, y'all, as time progressed, really, if I show y'all the pictures of that whole thing, I might try to flash some pictures like in the middle of it to show y'all about that whole thing, just the journey in general. Videos, I got some videos of that stuff.
What's up, y'all? This is Devani. We're gonna look at Maroon 5, Love Somebody song today.
But yeah, if I really boil it down to y'all, I had to kind of get back to myself and just get myself back sane from that whole experience. You feel me? And it really was just an experience of just what I was dealing with when I lived with my mother. And obviously, that whole experience kind of went down how it did. And I was remember recording like a podcast over my mom's house, kind of doing that stuff. And I think that podcast was, I made an introduction to that podcast, and it's on this YouTube page. It's the introduction, and I can tell you that introduction, I made it, and it wasn't really a well thought out, planned idea because of the fact that I was doing this while I was in a mental kind of break. So I wasn't really able to really pour into it the way that I truly wanted to, but I was trying to do it the best way that I could, because even though I was mentally struggling, I was just trying to still put together something because of the fact that I still wanted to chase my dreams. I still wanted to put my ideas out there for local artists and local people and just put that out there the best way I knew how to. And that was why half the time I wasn't able to really be involved with a lot of the artists who was doing different things, or even get my own music out there, because I was so engraved in trying to put my brand out there and everything through YMDR, wasn't really able to do that. And then, so as that time kind of progressed, man, some stuff kind of happened, different things. I had a kind of like a situation where, you know, when I was dealing with my mom's mental, stuff that was causing me problems, I had this epitome. And I could tell you what this epitome was. It was like God's divine force kind of telling me some things, because when I was dealing with, I guess, the verbal abuse of stuff like that, I was using a lot of I remember to an extent that I had a lot of understanding on God, and that was what I was trying to hold on to, even though I was around somebody who kept using verbal abuse to attack it. And so as I was doing that, I had an epiphany, because I remember there was these thoughts boiling around in my head, kind of suicidal thoughts from kind of dealing with a lot of what I was dealing with from that stuff. And at the same time, y'all, it was an epiphany that seemed like someone was speaking to me. And they were talking to me in my head. You know what I'm saying? Because I was having these thoughts that were negative, and they were talking to me in my head. And then I had this one thought that just told me something that had to do with my mother. It told me something that had to do with just myself. It told me to keep holding on and keep being the person that I was because my mother did not create me. It said that I created you, and it told me a bunch of things that were really able to help me understand that, like, I needed to still be here, even though these thoughts were bubbling around in my head, trying to make me think I needed to be something. And after I heard that, y'all, I ain't gonna lie, I cried. you know, not the most manly thing to do, but at the end of the day, we human. You know what I'm saying? But that experience, when it happened, how it happened, I just let it be what it was. And I tried my best to keep going on, y'all. Keep going on, pushing forward with YMDR. I was dealing with, being an artist and being a entertainment person of my own, and having to still, put together idea of what I wanted my brand to be. So I was being mentally interrupted while also trying to, bring together my entertainment stuff together. So it was a very destructive thing, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody because it's a lot of mental breakdowns that were there, a lot of mental constructions that were there. So it was pretty tough. It was pretty tough, and it wasn't easy for me to just sit there and act like I was okay all the time, because sometimes I wasn't. I would come to church sometimes and I'd be crying about things and other different stuff because it was very mentally draining. You know what I'm saying? When you really think about how it really took me, how it did. That was moments I didn't even want to create anything. And I'm going to just tell you, even when it came to my design that's on my shirt here, um, that design kind of reflects that idea. It reflects the angry face on the D, on YMDR, the dedication to God. That represents kind of the idea that the dedication to God was a burden in my situation, because it was like I wasn't believing in God from a healthy place. I had to believe in God under a spiritual warfare. I had to deal with somebody who didn't believe what I believed, and she would call out what I believed. I used to get called house niggas because I was believing what I was believing. I used to get called a lot of different things, and then I had to turn around and then try to still be a person of God in that. And I was always kind of sucked dry from the reality of what I was trying to be in that, from that. And it just took a whole crazy turn, y'all. Like, wasn't really one of them things I was able to always understand about it. You know what I'm saying? What else I could kind of put on there, as far as it goes, just other things. Um, there was a moment, I should tell y'all too, there was a moment where when I was working on this design that I was telling y'all about, the dedication to God design, I had to listen to some music, and it's almost like God had to push me to create the YMDR design that y'all see right here. Because at the end of the day, I didn't have the motivation. I didn't have the stability to be able to feel like I wanted to create anything, because I was in a space that was trying to not necessarily let me express myself the way I needed to. So what I had to kind of do was really, like, that was my last, I feel like me creating that little design that y'all see here was my last bit of trying to be a creative artist. And so I drew this YMDR on a piece of paper, and pretty much ultimately um happened a couple of years ago, as when I was drawing it too. But I drew it on a piece of paper, and I was having to listen to some Christian rap music when I was kind of like drawing it, to kind of picture some things, because sometimes music can inspire the imagery of what I create sometimes, because that's just how I was. I was able to let the music play, draw something, and just let that be what it was. So I did it, and it came out to be a pretty good design, I would say. And I bought some digital art software. I didn't know how to use it very much, y'all. I had to learn how to use it while also still dealing with that stuff. So it was very hard to kind of still do that and kind of learn it. But once I got it, I took advantage and just, evened all the lines out. made it kind of structured out the way I needed it to be. And bada bing, bada boom, I put the YMDR together. And I know a lot of different people, probably one of my friends who said that, that design is kind of like too, I don't know what they particularly called it, but at the time he said it wasn't the same as the original design. It looked too kind of graffiti like. And I knew that technically that design was like graffiti design, so I knew it wasn't really something that could be used for like a business type of ideology, because I had a design that also was a business idea too, but it's like the graffiti version of YMDR that I made. I felt that resonated with me a little more. So that was why I was using it as my business design. But then eventually I had to understand and realize in the business world, you can't use a design like that because technically speaking, it needs to be readable. And so what I did and decided to do was, since that design was a part of my brand already, is I scrapped that design as being a part of the like YMDR like main logo, and turned it into a logo that I put on my clothing brand, which is Yahweh Makes Demons Run merchandise. You know what I'm saying? So since I couldn't use it there, I used it on that brand, which was more like a clothing brand. And so I put it, that's why it's on all my, my clothing brand and other different stuff, because I used it for that particularly. And so, y'all, what I could really tell y'all about all that when I put it all together and kind of just transpired it, man, as time progressed, I had ran out of just all hope for just moving forward with what I was creating and my brand and everything, because I was just mentally struck down, and I just did not have the mental stability to do it. So I wasn't really able to really hold on to some stuff. But what I found out was I had a situation where someone had reached out to me, and this person reached out to me particularly about a place to stay. And so I answered this call, and I'm just going to tell you, when I answered it, it just felt like something like that God was kind of just putting on my heart to do. So when I answered the call and I just did it, like answered the call and got all my stuff together for it, I went and found out what it was that I was getting a call from. And it was just an apartment spot, you know what I'm saying? It was a place where I could just kind of, chill and learn my own stuff. But they told me, was giving me an appointment, said we got a place that you could stay in right here, da da da. And so I answered the call, y'all. And hey, when I answered the call, that call was the greatest call I ever answered, because at the same time it was a call that gave me a place to kind of resonate with myself. It was a little spot, and it was a spot that we see right here that I'm shooting this what is the episode in. And it was a little spot, but I was like, hey, I can work with it. And so eventually I just started to realize, like, hey man, I had to tell my moms, like, hey, like I'm gonna be moving. I'm not gonna be here anymore. So, this had happened over a period of time when I was dealing with that. And once I got my own space, y'all, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, like, it turned my whole reality into something different. It took me some time to get used to knowing how to do stuff here, because I'm going to just tell you, when you live in a state of mental destruction and having to deal with a lot of mental things going on, when you get in your own space, it's new surroundings. You don't even always know what you're thinking. You don't even always know if you're free to be yourself, because you're so used to having to deal with somebody telling you this or telling you that, telling you you're not good enough, etc. And so when I first moved in this mug, I ain't even gonna lie to you, man. It was like one of them things where I had to get used to the vibe of being able to be in my own space and be my own creative person. And one day I remember when I was even here that God kind of told me clear as day. He was like, Devani, I don't know if you know this, but you can be yourself here, man. Like, you your own person. You can be yourself. And he told me that, and it was like, I had to get used to that idea. But after a while, I started to realize why he was telling me it and why he's putting it there to begin with. He was saying it because I had dealt with what I dealt with from my mom's, but that's not the same thing that I'm dealing with here. I'm in my own space. I can be my own person. I don't have to be constricted or struck down by the idea that my belief system was a problem. I can do and be the person of God that I truly want to be. And so ultimately, when I really boil it down to the pros and the cons, is that, hey man, when I started to live here and build what I was building, I just kept building on the resources of my brand. I didn't get to, like I said, the news stuff, the YMDR podcast stuff. I didn't get into that yet, so that was why I was a little off when it came to that. But ultimately, when we put it all together, as far as it goes, the overall deal of it, I still was able to put together a majority of what I got with it right now. So that's why now, I mean, hey, it's kind of branched out. If y'all probably seen some of the older videos, there wasn't a lot of stuff here now, and now we're kind of working with a lot more different things, and putting it together. And yeah, we got a lot more different things just working on it from that whole idea. And so this happened from just a whole conglomerate of just me building it. And at the time, again, I wasn't able to do my music either. And I had just now started to put my stuff with my music in and kind of work on trying to get my stuff onto my Spotify playlist and my music stuff. So it wasn't really a thing where this was a mission of me wanting to not deprive people of what my musical abilities were. It's just I was not in a good state of a space to be able to do that and try to be an artist. You see what I'm saying? When you mentally struck, sometimes y'all, you have to let yourself kind of have air to breathe first. And in that air to breathe, I just was working on my brand. So y'all, that's why, hey, when you really boil it down to the situation, that's why now, I'm creating. I'm free to be myself. I'm here and I just been chilling, creating my stuff how I've been creating it. And all I can say, y'all, it's a very happy feeling. It's a very happy feeling. It's a very joyful feeling. It's a feeling that I cannot make it seem like it's something that I can just shy away from. I like it. I appreciate it. I'm glad that God kind of extended his hand to make it happen so that I could be able to create what I needed to for basically just a greater picture. You feel me? At the end of the day, because when it's all said and done, y'all, we all have something to bring to the world at large. And I'm just glad that he kind of put me in that idea to be able to do that through the entertainment of what I was trying to create through music or through filming or through clothing brands, or through just trying to be somebody who didn't sell their soul to the devil, or just anything. Like, I was just glad that he created me to be somebody who wanted to put that construct out there. So that's ultimately what I could say about that. You know what I'm saying? So what's good with y'all, man? Thank y'all so much for watching YMDR News. If y'all got any questions or concerns on the YouTube page, just let a brother know. If any one of y'all want to get on here and tell y'all story about the YMDR News situation, y'all can always let me know. Hit me in the comments. Let me know how you feel about the episode or something like that. Let me know how that goes. I will tell you other details and other different things. If you want to check out our social medias, we got them all. We got Facebook, we got our YouTube, we got IG, we got Twitter, we got the TikTok page. You feel me? We got all that all down in the description for you if you want to check that type of stuff out. Much love to y'all. I thank y'all for tapping in. This has been YMDR News. Peace out.